Good afternoon, teacher. We're going to explain the present simple. This presentation is made by Alvarez, Gonzales, Aracely, Jackeline, and Sueldo, Andrea, Nalda. We're going to start with a condition. We have 5 conditions. The first is when you want to communicate states or permanent actions. For example, the Earth is the third planet from the Sun. The second is when manifesting states or situations that are routine or action that have periodicity. For example, every 10 years is a decade. The third is when you want to talk about habits, routines, or events that are repeated in certain periods of the time. For example, I drink coffee every morning. The fourth is when you give direction, instruction, and signals. For example, you go down this street to the cinema, then you turn right. And the last one is when you want to transmit appointments, events, or commitments that will happen in a certain time. Okay, we're going to explain the structure. We have 3 forms, the affirmative, the negative, and the interrogative. The affirmative starts with the subject, next the verb, and finally the object or the complement. For example, I drink too much coffee, or I drink a coffee, or he drinks too much coffee. The negative is subject, auxiliary, do or doesn't, the verb, and finally the complement. For example, you don't drink too much coffee, or she doesn't drink too much coffee. And the interrogative start with the auxiliary, do, does, the subject, the verb, and finally the complement. For example, do you drink too much coffee, or does he drink too much coffee?
Good afternoon, my name is Andrea Sueldo, and I'm going to continue with the exposition. The present simple and the third person. Well, let's start with rule 1. In the affirmative sentence of the present simple, all verbs are added an s at the end. Don't forget that when found in negative and interrogative sentence, the s shouldn't be put. The uses are when verbs denote any note, such C, H, S, S, X, and C, you must add S to the end. For verbs ending in Y, you must replace Y with I and then add S. There is another exception for verbs ending in Y. When there is a vowel before the Y, you should keep it and add the S. Next, please. In the rule 2, in the third person, das is auxiliary to use. However, do is used for the first and second person, singular and plural. Examples for the rule 1, she wishes that this summer she can travel with her family. Examples for rule 2, Sarah speaks English very well because she always studies. Next, please. In the rule 3, to be is the most used irregular verb in English, so we recommend you study and learn all its conjugation forms. Some examples are, we are in a Chinese food restaurant. And finally, in the rule 4, to use the present simple with the modal verbs can't, must, may, you must take into account that there are 2 exceptions. You should never add s or s to them. When using the present simple in negation in the interrogation sentence, modal verbs should never have the auxiliary to or does. Some examples are, your dog can play in this place, he mustn't be back by Tuesday, I might not go out tonight. Thanks for all.